Hello, everybody. This is a channel that I created for documenting my experience in the Draft League format of Pokemon, which I'm just beginning to get into. So, this will be the first video going up on the channel, and it'll be just a draft summary of the first draft I've done. This is the first league I've entered. And yeah, I'll just be going over what I picked and why. So, within this league, you're allowed to draft 13 different Pokemon. Um, 3 from OU, 3 from UU, 2 from RU, 3 from NU, and 2 from PU. And yeah, something important to note in this league, Z moves were banned. But let's get into the picks. So there was 12 people in the league, and I was number 12 out of 12, meaning I got dead last pick in first round, which kind of sucked. So most of the super big offensive threats were gone. So I decided to go with Zygarde. Just because I think it's a really good Pokemon. I really enjoy using it. I like how well it compresses coverage and how it can set up in so many different ways and use so many different moves. And also, I like not having to prep for a Zygarde ever because it's so difficult to prep for since it can do so many different things and it has so few checks. So that's why I want Zygarde. And so, after getting Zygarde, I decided that what I wanted was a very consistent switch into grass types, since grass types would be most likely be the things coming in, taking Zygarde's 1,000 arrows, and I want a reliable switch in to come in and take them on. Initially, this was going to be Heatran. I thought Heatran would do a good job from that, but unfortunately, Heatran was taken before I could get my hands on it. Even though I got the double pick, someone had taken it. So I decided to go with instead was Zapdos, since it does resist grass, does a good job dealing with them, and it does get Heat Wave to deal with them pretty well. Also, it's flying type, so it can hit them with stab flying moves. Unfortunately, the best one it gets is like Hidden Power Flying and Air Cutter, but there's something. Has static and good defensive wall in general. So yeah, that's why I picked Zapdos. Also, baton pass is allowed in this league, so it gives me the option of agility passing with speed passing, so I can agility pass too, which is pretty cool. Um, yeah, and it gets dual screens, which is pretty nice too. So, Rotom Wash. I think it makes more sense, or the pick of Rotom Wash makes more sense when I explain later. So, since I was the 12th pick, I ended up being the first person to pick a UU Pokemon. So actually, I didn't even pick Rotom until the very last pick of the draft because everyone had taken every single OU except for me because it went up to Snake, down Snake, and back up to me. So I was the only one missing an OU at that point. So I just decided to not even pick Rotom till the very end, even though I wanted it. But my plan was to grab Mega Manectric as my Mega. And I chose Mega Manectric because the best answers for it are ground and grass types. And which just happen to be some of the best answers for Zygarde. Um, Not necessarily ground types, but like good defensive walls do tend to be ground types, just because it's just a type that tends to have very sturdy Pokemon. And grass types are one of the biggest things to stop Zygarde. And Mega Manetric's able to pressure these things heavily and has a fantastic speed tier, a good ability to intimidate, and it can bonk these grass types with Overheat or Flamethrower, which is also fantastic. And another thing I really like about Manectric is that it has access to Volt Switch, and I'm a player who really enjoys playing with momentum. So I decided to grab Mega Manectric just for the momentum, the ability to pressure out grass types, and yeah, ability to pressure the grass types. So I guess that makes Rotom Wash make more sense. That since I'm trying to pressure these grass and ground types, I have an incredible switch into grass types. Not incredible, but it is a very good one in Zapdos to take on grass types. And I also have Rotom Wash to come in and take on the ground types. Since it's levitating, unless they're a mold breaker, but those are few and far between. It can come in, not get hit by the ground types, fire back with Hydro Pumps, and also have a Volt Switch for momentum. And if they want to block the Volt Switch, they're exposing themselves to Rotom's other stab. and it's just a great defensive Pokemon in general. It's really well balanced between defensive and offensive. So yeah, that's why I wrote Rotom's on the team, to take on ground types pretty much. So my next pick in UU was Cobalion. This is probably one of the only picks in the draft I made that I really regret. I don't super regret it, but the more and more I went on drafting, the more and more I felt like I could have made a better pick here. I decided that I really wanted a solid steel on my team, just because steel types are always good. They resist so many different things. I wanted a solid steel to take things on, and I decided Cobalion would do a good job at that. But unfortunately, Cobalion fails to resist Psychic and Fairy, which are two of Steel type's main jobs, in my opinion. So the more and more I went on, the more and more conscious I felt of his weakness to Psychic and Fairy, and the more I didn't like it. So I don't think Cobalion was a terrible pick, especially because it has a really nice speed tier. But yeah. For my next pick, I think my last UU pick, so this was actually the last one I took in UU. I think I got an absolute steal with Azumarill, getting it this late. Because it's a fantastic Pokemon. It can do so many different things. It can belly drum and try and sweep. It can just be a good wall with huge power to hit back hard. It can be banded. And it can have Sap Sipper to take on grass types. So just in itself, being a belly drum sweeper forces a certain kind of prep. People always have to be ready for that, because you will lose to a Azumarill if you're not prepared for it to belly drum on you. But I like that because it forces people to prep even more with their defensive grasses, and makes the defensive grasses even more wary and even more pressured. But also because since it has Sap Zipper, it can actually be a great switch into the grass types as well. And it can go for the Whirlpool. I guess Whirlpool's an useless moves, but the Whirlpool Parasong traps on grass types if I ever need it. Can Toxic them, wear them down, and just do a fantastic job of taking on grass types, which is something that I need if I'm trying to pressure them a lot. So yeah, that was it for my UU picks. I was really happy that I got Azumarill. I really like Magmanectric on his team. Not the biggest fan of Cobalion, but I don't think it's terrible. So for my RU picks, for the first one I picked up Nidoqueen, which I think is an absolute steal in RU, since Smogonteers aren't really representative of how good things are in draft. I wanted to have Toxic Spikes just to have the option of being able to sub-protect, stall out grasses that want to try and come in and stop Zygarde, but also because it's just a fantastic Pokemon. Gives me a poison type to crush spikes, hits incredibly hard and just breaks through walls incredibly well with Sheer Force plus Life Orb, since it doesn't take Life Orb recoil due to Sheer Force, and Sheer Force boost on its own, so it just gets a ridiculous boost on all of its moves. And it's decently bulky, like 90, 87, 85. That's solid. And for my next pick, I decided, the more and more I thought about it, that Cobalion really wasn't the really sturdy steel that I wanted on my team. So I decided to go for Bronzong, which I think is also a bit underrated in RU. It has fantastic typing, and it almost works together with Cobalion, in that the dark, while Cobalion resists dark and actually punishes them with its ability Justified, Bronzong is weak to the dark type, so they can kind of cover each other that way, but I probably wouldn't end up bringing both of them to the same game, or at least as defensive options anyways, unless the game really called for it. But it does quad resist the psychic types, which I was worried about in my team, and resist fairy, and that's what I really wanted. It gets the dual screens, has decent attack, and pretty good defensive stats, but its typing is really good, and I really like its abilities in that it can, depending on what I want, be a levitator or be heat proof, to nullify one of Steel's already few and far between weaknesses, which I really like. So yeah, that's why I have Bronzong, just to be that sturdy Steel for the team. My next pick was Slowking. I picked Slowking because I still felt that I was a little weak to Psychic, because at this point I've got, neutral, 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 and then one resist. And that is a quad resist, but I felt like I was really leaving myself weak to psychic by only taking that. This does kind of step a little bit on the toes of Azumarill and Rotom Wash's niches in being a bulky water, but it's different because it has Regenerator, which is a fantastic ability. It has Slack Off, it has a unique typing. It can take on fighting types like actually Azumarill could do that too, but yeah, its typing's just different. It allows for different things and it has recovery and actually really nice attack stats. It has a base 100 special attack, which is nothing to scoff at all. That's very solid, and really good special defense, which I was really worried about. I'm not too worried about any super strong physical, psychic, and physical fairies because those are very rare. So yeah. So my next pick was Whimsicott. I just wanted a grass type on my team, and also an extra fairy. Not much to say about Whimsicott besides I wanted grass type. I did want something to fill the speed tier gap between Cobalion and Mega Manectric. Just the things in like the 120 range can't so easily just creep down to Cobalion. Things like Tornadus, Greninja, things like that. I wanted them to have something to worry about. Prankster's always nice. As Cotton Guard, Defog, a lot of nice utility moves, although its stats are bad besides the speed. You know, it's nice to have around, and I might bring it to a few matches. And Houndoom. At this point, I did not have a single dark type on my team, so I really wanted a dark type, and I didn't have a single fire type on my team. And I felt I really needed a fire type to really effectively break through ground types, or not ground types, steel types. At this point, I do have Cobalion with fighting, but like 90-90 isn't great. It does get Swords Dance, but I don't really want to have to bring a Cobalion to break through steels. And Zygarde does do a great job of breaking through steels, but it's a kind of Pokemon that I want to use end game most of the time, unless it's choice band. But even then, it's something I want to be preserving, and I don't want to rely on Zygarde solely for breaking steels. So I thought bring a fire type in Houndoom would be pretty good. 95 base speed is nothing terrible. It's pretty solid speed. 110 special attack is pretty damn solid. 75, 50, 80 bulk. This is actually not terrible specially. The physical is pretty bad. And Flash Fire is a fantastic ability. Just having a fire immunity is really good. My team is by no means fire weak at this point. I have a ton of resistance to fire, but still there. My last two picks for PU was Lantern. I think Lantern's really underrated in PU. Volt Absorb and Water Absorb are fantastic abilities. And it's really bulky with 125, 76, 58. Especially, it's extremely bulky. I think it'd make a great check to things like Tapu Koko, things like Greninja, because neither of them really have anything that they can hit Lantern hard with. And Lantern can Volt Switch on Tapu Koko itself and use its Electric Train against it and do some massive damage, while Tapu Koko really can't hit it for anything. And Lantern's immune to its Volt Switch. Same thing with Greninja. They really can't hit Lantern too hard, even Protean. Like, it's only weak to Grass, and it gets, like, what, Hidden Power Grass, Grass Knot. Grass Knot hits it for, like, base 40 damage, I think. Tapu Koko gets that too, but it's not doing anything. And ground-type moves, neither of them get a strong ground-type move, besides Hidden Power Ground, which really isn't going to do much. And Lantern should be doing more back. So I'm taking as specifically a check for those two things for the most part, because, especially for, like, in case of Tapu Koko, Tapu Koko just brings HP Ice. It can bop Zygarde easily. It can bring HP Ice and bop Nidoqueen pretty easily. But Lantern not so much. Lantern can take it on much better than the other two. Kabutops for my last slot. I felt like I had mostly everything covered, so I just wanted to bring something that I could use in really unexpected scenarios. I was planning on, it could fill a role that I'm not expecting. It has priority in Aqua Jet, which is always nice. But I'm thinking, like, I'm not exactly sure when it will be, but I feel like at some point I'll see when I can use it to get a weak armor plus Swords Dance boost and just, like, swoop through an entire team. especially if I can get like weakness policy in and EV it to live like a specific earthquake or yeah, probably an earthquake of some sort. Um, and I mean, it does take on the grass and grounds very well with a stab to hit, or it pressures the grass a lot and can easily break through the grounds with its water stab. So yeah, that's about it for why I have everything. I'm expecting to bring Zygarde to most of matches, Zapdos to probably most of them. Rotom, just some of them. Whenever there's a ground that has to be dealt with, Manectric should come to most of them just because it's my fastest thing, has a great speed tier. Cobalion will come to some of them depending if I need it. Azumarill, probably most of them just because it can do so many different things. Bronzong should come to most just because its resistances are so key and needed. Nidoqueen should come to a lot because it has such good breaking power. Soaking will come to some if I need that extra wall, and if there's something I'm specifically worried about that I think I can check. Whimsicott might come to a few, depending on if I need like statuses on something, or need a speed tier specifically for something. Might bring Houndoom against like some really dark or fire weak teams, and I discussed when I'd probably bring Lantern. So yeah. I'm really actually pretty satisfied with its draft. I didn't get anything super powerful because I was a 12th pick, but I felt like I picked smart and picked a coherent team that should come together to kind of form into one objective. So yeah, that's it for my draft. I'll see you next time.